Good evening. Welcome to this regularly scheduled City Council meeting, Thursday, April 23rd, 2026 at 6 o'clock. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Warbach?
Here.
Councilmember Westman?
Here.
Vice Mayor Jensen?
Here.
And Mayor Morgan?
Here. Would you all please join for the Pledge of Allegiance? Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Staff has no changes to the agenda this evening.
And report on closed session.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The City Council met in closed session to discuss the 3 items listed on this evening's closed session agenda. Direction was provided, deliberation occurred, and there was no reportable action. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Additional materials?
Staff received additional materials on nearly all of the items on tonight's agenda. Really briefly, I'll just run through the list. Item 5, 1 email. Item 7B, 1 email. Item 7C, 2 emails, 2 staff memos. Item 7D, 1 email. Item 8A, 2 emails. Item 8B, 1 email. Item 8C, 2 emails. All additional materials are available for public review, both in hard copy at the back of the room and online, and were available for council review prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. All right, we'll come to oral communications by members of the public. Anything that is not on tonight's agenda can be addressed. You'll have 3 minutes. And state your name if you'd like.
Hi, my name is Goran Klepic. I'm an Army veteran. I played in the past here basketball at Jade Street Park. I want to say that it looks terrible at the moment at Jade Street Park. The project is not moving along, so I'm asking myself what's going on with the city of Capitola, where the funding is for such a facility. Because I think there were also in the past, when I was playing ball there were kids there playing with their parents, they were having a good time. So you should just think about it, what you're doing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Come on up.
Down. Okay, I think that's okay. My name's Bob Hickman. Good evening, Mayor. Should I call you Barbara now? That's the Pahara today, sorry. I just have 2 items I'd like to bring up real quick. And regarding our last council meeting, 2 things that happened. One, the council member standing up here talking about Friends of Metro. I don't think this is the appropriate place to be pushing Friends of Metro. It's a community-led effort for the Friends of Metro. It's not a city-led effort. When you're up on the dais and you start talking about it, now it seems like the city's supporting this and stuff. If the city and the county were supporting this and put this measure up, it requires a 2/3 vote. It's a community-led effort. It's a 51% vote for that sales tax measure. So I don't think when we're up here, social media, newspapers, etc., fine, do it. But not when we're up here in front of the public representing the city council. I think that's inappropriate. The second thing is, after talking about the Stockton Bridge Grill, watching one of the council members here that was in disagreement with the rest of the council members act like a little child and throw a tantrum fit, throw herself back in the chair. Second time I've seen this happen with the Stockton Bridge Grill. Talks when they disagree. But to throw yourself back and then start cussing, I'm sorry. You can't do that in front of this audience. You're a representative of this city. We deserve better. We deserve an adult up there. Agree to disagree with your council members, but don't throw your hissy fit. Throw yourself back in the chair and start cussing and saying, this is BS, this is BS, this is BS. That's wrong. I think you owe an apology to everybody in this room and online, saying this shouldn't happen again. Second time you've thrown the fit, let's not have it a third time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Melinda Vento and Capitola citizen. I first want is this closer? Okay, hear myself. First, I wanted to ask the council and the city actually about doing another town hall. We had one last year, and I was attending a meeting last night for council member Jensen on Capitola counts. And it is just such a wonderful thing to have all of the projects discussed at a high level. And I love city council meetings. I like to come down here, but I was complaining to Jerry last night, and I wanted to bring it to the council and the city, is that if you walk in here and you sit down, and even after you attend a few, maybe 4 or 5 meetings in a row, you don't have really the background of these projects. You really don't have enough meat behind it to try and even, Jerry was saying, well, people need to come up and do some, use the public opinion, right? Come up and speak. But I don't feel like there's enough transparency on the projects that we have at hand. And this is not anything new. And I thought that the city council, the city did a great job on that town hall. I was there. It was so well attended. I would love to see more of those because of all the really critical projects that are coming to play. So everything from the roundabout to you name it. I mean, we have some big projects. We have budget issues that we're facing, could be potentially some shortfalls if we don't get all the revenue that we're projecting. And I think that doing another town hall and us being, as a city, more transparent to the citizens and letting them know what are some of these tough decisions, because at some point we may have to make, for example, some cuts. I just think background would be really helpful. So that's the first topic. The second one has to do with the roundabout. So as I understand it, and I've been out of the country for a couple months now, I believe that the city council is, in fact, moving forward with the roundabout project. I do think that the city council needs to take a serious look at that and step back and put a pause on it. It's a very expensive project. I live right off of Bay. I live on Sunset off of Center. And so I walk that Bay daily, and the congestion going to one lane is just not going to, I just don't see it happening. I didn't feel safer. In fact, I felt less safe with a single lane. I know it created a lot of congestion, but safety was the primary concern. I just wanted to bring that up and hope that we'll consider maybe another opinion on that project. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. I'll be brief. I actually sent a letter on the topic of some unprofessional behavior from the last council meeting. I would just like to remind all of you, even those who are doing other things at the moment, that you are in a position to be representing the constituents of the town that you were elected there to represent, but you're also partners, and I don't think that the behavior that I saw at the last meeting was professional to one another as peers and coworkers. We all can agree to disagree on many topics, but I do believe that there is a certain level of professionalism and decorum that is expected of each of you all the time. By being an elected official, that is just one of the things that is expected, of our city council. But particularly when you're sitting in this room facing the public, it's being recorded. You may not realize how, looking down at your notes or not listening or looking at people when they're speaking or disagreeing with one another, that's bound to happen. But I do think there is a moment where you need to take a breath, pause, and consider that you are all supposed to be working together to solve problems in our city. And so I do actually think an apology is necessary as well. And I do hope that we can remember that, topics get heated. I get that. And believe me, that's why I've never put myself out to sit up there, because I know myself, I can get a little passionate. But I do think that there is room for improvement on how we treat one another and how we treat others, and especially those that we work with. And so That's what I want to say. And thank you all for your work.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to staff comments.
I believe Public Works this evening has a quick little slideshow about a project that we recently completed. It'll be quick.
Great.
Hello. All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the community. Tonight, we want to highlight a special project that exemplifies the spirit of teamwork here in Capitola, the rebuilding of the Wharf kiosk entrance. This project began late last year when a member of our Public Works team was contacted by a resident with a vision to rebuild the kiosk at the entrance to the wharf. We followed up and were greeted with a fun story about when the kiosk was first built more than 40 years ago by a young fisherman, Mike Lyford. Next slide, please. That's Mike with one of the Stagnaro family members right there in front of the wharf with a pretty good day out on the ocean. While talking with Mike, he almost started to tear up as he thought of the opportunity to give back to the community once again. Over the course of the next few months, Mike coordinated with our Public Works team to scope the work. He had the redwood milled in the hills overlooking Capitola and showed up early last week, eager to get started. Next slide, please. There's the milling up there in the hills, and then Mike getting started. On the Public Works side, our team completely rebuilt the landing and the railing surrounding the kiosk in advance of Mike's effort. We also want to recognize Public Works staff who worked as Mike's partner on this endeavor. Rob Bunter, Steve Needens, and Matt Capitola helped with logistics, off-haul of old material, and even fashioned some sections out of wharf wood. Mike's feedback on this collaboration was the highest praise that we could hope for. He noted that this partnership is exactly how a city and its community should work together. He couldn't say enough about how much he enjoyed working with Rob and company. Mike donated his own time, tools, equipment, purchased the materials, and even stayed at the Venetian courts to complete this project. It was a pleasure for our team to get to know Mike, hear some old stories about Capitola, connect the dots between community members old and new, and establish new friendships. We encourage everyone to take a look at the new kiosk the next time you go out to the wharf. It is a beautiful testament of this team effort. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Public Works. Thank you to Mike. It's beautiful to collaborate.
I did have one other announcement.
Sure.
In the matter of the arbitration regarding the Rio Mobile Home Estates rent increase, the arbitrator has issued their ruling. The finding was that the landlord is owed a rent increase of $75.36, along with a surcharge that lasts for 60 months, the amount of $6.29 a month. This is significantly less than landowners will recall was seeking. So that's, I think, a positive development.
Okay, thank you for that update. Anything else from staff? All right. I'll take it to council comments. Ms. Westman?
I just have two brief ones. One, I attended the Senior Advisory Council meeting last week, and I want to publicly thank Jacques Bertrand, who's been going to the meetings with me. He's actually the alternate, but it's nice to have him attend the meetings as well. So if he needs to attend in my place, he's up to speed with everything that's going on. And the second one is we got a letter from the Santa Cruz County, which they wrote in opposition to some new rules that Fish and Game are thinking about imposing about fishing off the shore here in Capitola. And I was hoping that as a council, I think the council in 24 also sent a similar letter, but the issue is continuing to go on. If that could come back to us so that we could make our community aware of the new restrictions they're talking about putting in place and write a letter to Fish and Game in opposition of those new restrictions if we agree with that. So I'd like to bring that item back. Thank you.
Thank you. Just wanted to,
Well, I got nods.
I was going to wait till my comment, but I can second that. Or yeah.
sorry. I thought you told me to go. Second. Yes, sir. Okay, sorry. I apologize. Okay. I just attended the grand opening yesterday at the Risman Park, held, was it yesterday? Tuesday, sorry. Days run together. At the Risman Park, which was over at the library, it was great to see what a great turnout. I think there was probably about 45 to 50 people there. It's nice to see the community come together for such a wonderful event and to see the Risman open back up again. And it was great to be educated and enlightened by what the Capitola Cares community coming together again to raise money. This community, yet again, is just amazing, and how they come together, support project after project over and over and over. And so looking forward to the future of what that looks like at the Risman Parks. And then the last thing, I've been getting some questions. I was just wondering, a question more for staff. The budget that is being proposed, will that be posted in the, some people are asking me, like, I think the fact got the budget and stuff, is that going to be posted on the city's website just for information, or that will be in the next agenda packet, or when would that be out for public review?
We should be getting that out for public review, I think, this week. It should be up on our website shortly.
Okay, perfect. And then just, I heard a couple public comments, and I think the city's done a very good job talking about some of these, but just to highlight, Jade Street Park is projected to be open June-ish this time. Is that correct? June timeframe?
That sounds about right.
June, July.
I'm trying to make eye contact. I don't see her in the audience. She's not sitting right next to me. Yeah, we do have a ribbon cutting scheduled for right in there. It's in our calendars. I don't remember the date off the top of my head.
Yeah, but work is progressing, PG shut off. I mean, everything on schedule.
Yeah, everything is going terrific. I actually did a walkthrough yesterday, and the building looks amazing. The contractor's done just really spectacular work. The architects, the whole team. It's looking really good.
Okay. And then just, I think one other question we heard, is the roundabout, is a discussion as we coming back to council in the future?
That's scheduled for the May 14th council meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And that's all the questions and comments I had. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, I was down on the wharf just today and actually saw them still working on the kiosk. I was curious what was going on, so it's great to see. Thank you, Kailash, for that. But even more exciting was when I looked over at the stairs at Hooper's that the guys were working on fixing the stairs. So looks like that's going to be opening up pretty soon. So once again, kudos to Public Works.
Great. Councilmember Orbach?
So during the last council meeting, I was visibly frustrated after deliberations were abruptly stopped when a procedural maneuver, calling the question, was used to silence a voice of dissent rather than engage in good faith deliberation. Robust deliberation ensures that we have thoroughly discussed all options and answered everyone's questions, so every member on this council feels confident about their vote. When you have council members stating that they are confused about the motions being presented, the body should take the time to deliberate further before making a decision, especially when there is a $500,000 grant on the line. My frustration was directed at how the situation unfolded, not any individual council member. However, in the future, I will work harder to temper my passion for fiscal responsibility.
Great, thank you. Yes, I want to echo the Risman Park ribbon cutting, even though we were at the library, we got rained out. But it was just a nice kind of connection to the park as well. I think having that corner of our city getting more established is, it's a really nice feeling for the families that live over there and everybody that gets to use the park. So definitely, now that it's nice and sunny out, please check the park out. We've got some other incoming things, working with Capitola Cares. The city as well has some ideas moving forward. So definitely go support that. And yeah, I'll just kind of touch on the fact that maybe as a council, we can sort of work on cleaning up our act a little bit and just making sure we are being professional while we're on the dais. I think that's it for me. All right, so we will go, yes?
I have just quick clarification on a couple of the items that came up. The first is that the budget is in fact online. We'll add it to the what's new because you have to click on Finance Department and Annual Budget to find it, so we can raise its prominence. And the ribbon cutting will be at 11:30 on the 27th of May for the Community Center at the Park project. So everyone is welcome. But I didn't have that date off at the touch of my fingertips a moment ago.
Awesome, thank you for clarifying. All right, we'll go to item 7, which is consent. They can all be enacted in one motion unless a council member pulls an item.
I would like you to vote on A, B, and C, and then vote on D separately, as I need to recuse myself on that item.
Okay,
And I'd like to pull B.
okay. So let's take a vote on items 7A and C.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve items 7A and C.
I'll second.
Great. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, passes unanimously. And then let's have Councilmember Westman recuse herself from D. We can have a motion on 7D.
I move measure, or with it, we take D in the consent.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And then did you want to go over B now, or do you want to save it for the end?
Whatever you want.
Are we prepared to maybe touch on that?
I'm happy to answer questions. Unfortunately, Director Khan isn't available this evening, so I'll do what I can to help out.
First of all, I wish Director Khan was here. I wanted to thank her for all her hard work in writing that grant. Just going back to what the vision of the project I think was started is good for the community to understand. I think myself and our mayor worked on a vision that we're trying to look at how we can improve Astronaut Park and make it more attractive. As we talk about the village being the heartbeat of our community, the Astronaut Park is the heartbeat of the village. And so I thought that was really important, and I appreciate the support from our mayor and also the council, how that money was funded at $50,000 to look at those enhancements. And then, like everything, the projects grow and become more of an opportunity. And so I know we wrote a coastal resiliency grant, and we're funded, I think, $275,000. I've just heard some questions that have come up, and I think it's just good to clarify like what the intent of it is for everybody. This grant that we received is for the park only. Is that correct? And they're going to. Sorry, go ahead.
So the grant, I'm going to tell you as much as I know, and then unfortunately, if we need to continue, we can to a meeting when Director Khan can be here. So the grant is $275,000. The council, I think, approved it last fall before we submitted it. And the nice thing about it is it offsets the $50,000, or at least it holds back the $50,000 of general funds that the council had previously appropriated to kind of start the design process at Esplanade Park. It sort of does two things. It takes us to the 30% design stage for a park. But also because we are next to the ocean and the beach, there's also resiliency planning involved. So it actually touches on a goal that a number of council members mentioned during our goal setting last week, which was sort of resiliency and sea level rise planning for the village. So there's going to be some work around that as well. So it's going to kind of do a twofer, if you will. It's helping us with some sort of sea level rise planning, and then also taking the plans for the park to a 30% level.
And the 30% level is kind of what you need to start for opportunities for future grants. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so the 30%, when it comes back, we'll have some visual part to like what the park part of what the community is going to use. And then we'll be looking at the resiliency of what we could do to make it better for the businesses or safer for our community. Is that correct?
Yeah, in this context, resiliency will probably mean things like, is there areas for water infiltration, or how do we ensure that, when the waves come, that they do less damage, things along those lines. And there's a public process attached in the scope of work, so it's not going to come back as a baked product. There's going to be outreach and steps along the way before we end up at the 30% plans.
And this project is a standalone by itself, correct? I mean, this isn't connected to the Cliff Resiliency Project on how those two are going to be connected, or the ATP multimodal connection. This is a grant written just for the astronaut park and some look at resiliency in the village, but there's no connection at this time. I mean, maybe in time if we ever got the whole Cliff Resiliency Project funded, maybe there might be some connection, but there's large gaps between the two, right?
Yeah, the intent behind this grant was to find funding to design an upgraded Esplanade Park.
Perfect. Okay. I think those were just my clarifying questions. And with that, I'll make a motion that we approve, unless there's other questions. Anyone
I'll
else?
second that.
So this will help with the whole sort of village beachfront, not just Esplanade Park or just Esplanade Park.
I am not 100% sure. I think in looking at the design for Esplanade Park, it's going to help inform the overall conversation. But
That's fine.
off the top of my head, I don't want to give the wrong information.
Great. Yeah, just before we take a roll call, Council Vice Mayor Jensen and I think you spoke beautifully about our intentions for this project, and it was not to exhaust any general fund money or anything like that. And we're working, well, Jessica is the one doing the heavy lifting on the grants and everything. So thank you for your motion. And with that, all in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. That takes care of consent. So we'll jump down to 8A tonight on our general government. We're receiving a presentation on the conceptual design for Wharf Master Plan. We can adopt a resolution for the master plan and direct the staff to release a request for proposal. And we have Ms. Hurley. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight, I'll be presenting the Wharf Master Plan in conjunction with Fuse Architecture, who's the consultant on the project. I'll first introduce where we've been, talk about the RFP, and then they will present the actual master plan and design. So little background here. Back in 2024, we initiated a short and long-term plans for the wharf after the wharf was rebuilt. In 2024, in the summer, we implemented that short-term plan and got funding for a long-term plan, which we'll be discussing tonight. In fall of 2024, we hired Fuse Architecture to put together a long-term plan. And then you'll remember all the work that went into the 7 different options that we came up with, the public outreach effort, which was above and beyond with stakeholder meetings, surveys, community meeting. And back in June of last year, the City Council directed staff and Fuse to move forward with a hybrid between options 6 and 7. So a little more background about what we heard from the public at the community meeting and the survey. The findings were aligned. Option 6 and 7 were the most favored and had the greatest support. The attendees, they talked about wanting a balanced function, character, public benefits on the wharf, really thinking about the preservation of the wharf's historic identity, fishing, public access, creating resilient infrastructure after the storms and making sure whatever we built out there it will be resilient, and then supporting local vendors. There was strong support for all the work that was done during the temporary improvements to the wharf, which remain out on the wharf, all the enhancements of art and benches and lights and support for, in addition to not just the option 6 and 7, but bringing back a public bathroom at the end of the wharf, as well as a lifeguard area to store a jet ski and lifeguard equipment. So this slide just shows what option 6 was. It was for a fishing concession and a flexible market space. So 2 ideas within one building, which the public really enjoyed. But out of option 7, there was a lot of support for that restaurant to come back. So the idea of bringing back a hybrid was a marketplace that included a restaurant rather than an open market mezzanine with multiple vendors. So the core project that we've that Fuse has been working on is to create a single marketplace on the wharf. It'll include a restaurant with full service year-round operations, entertainment. The renderings you'll see tonight include a 4,800 square foot restaurant. The renderings you'll see are conceptual in nature until we have a public-private partnership to move forward. These items may change, but the renderings we have is really to get this out to the public and see if there's interest in a partnership. And then the fishing concession will include a bait and tackle. An important part of this is the boat rental to continue with the hoist and water taxis, and then to manage the moorings, which currently under the lease we can have up to 50 moorings. The provider can have up to 50 moorings. And the square footage you'll see in tonight's rendering is 1,200 square feet for those that area. It also includes new public restrooms and then a lifeguard station for the marine rescue watercraft storage. And this, the update includes kind of a lookout tower for lifeguards should there be an emergency. Also attached to your staff report tonight was a request for proposals. So as I said, we're looking for a public-private partnership to have a developer who's interested to come in and actually help with the future, like the final design on this, getting permitting, building the structure, and then managing it and operating it in the future. So within the request, we outline everything that we're looking for them to submit. We stress in the RFP that the master plan is conceptual only, so they're not tied to developing exactly what we have in the plan, but it's really a way for us to advertise what it could be and try to bring in a developer. So a future developer will be responsible for the full project funding, constructions, operations, and maintenance, securing all the permits, and then the development and entitlements. The financial terms will be that we have a base rent with percentage rent required to really look at the maintenance over time of the structures and the base rent for leasing the space underneath the ground or on the wharf, sorry. And then preferably a tiered lease structure. The qualifications we outline in the RFP is to have experiments in commercial development as well as waterfront development and operations, and then the ability to finance the project. I plan to send out the RFP to most wharf operators that have restaurants along the California coast. So we'll get the word out to as many restaurants as we can contact and see what we get in terms of responses. For entitlements and approvals, the future wharf will have to go through City Council first. Their design will have to come to you first for your blessing, and then it'll move forward to Planning Commission for permits and coastal development permits, and also include CEQA review. The timeline we're proposing is the RFP. I can put that out next week. Proposals will be due in June, late June, so almost July. Then we'll take July to look through proposals, have meetings if necessary for interviews, and hopefully I'm thinking like late August, early September, that we would return to the City Council with a proposal and lease. And where it's city property, a lot of these steps will go through the City Council to ensure we have the right developer. So our recommendation tonight is to adopt a resolution adopting the Wharf Master Plan and direct staff to release the RFP for a qualified private entity to construct and operate the marketplace through a lease agreement with the city. And from there, we have Dan Gomez and Dan Townsend of Fuse Architecture who will be presenting.
What do you have? Do you have one that looks like this on the front?
It's different.
It's different then.
This is additional.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Dan Townsend, and this is Dan Gomez. We're the principal architects at Fused Architecture, and our staff is here as well. And we're very excited to present to you our design response for the Capitola Wharf. First off, we want to thank city staff for being so available during this design process. It was fantastic working with them. Feedback was great. Helped us out quite a bit. We're going to present this in two sections. I'm going to be reviewing the floor plans and functions of the wharf in response to the public requests. And Dan will review exterior elevations, cross sections, materials, and imagery. Okay, so the next slide, please. Thank you. Here's the plan showing the whole wharf from the beginning to the end. So just orientation-wise, the top slide, the top image shows the new bathrooms that are there, and walking down the wharf to the head of the wharf, you can see the building footprints there. So the very beginning is the added public bathroom, the lifeguard area. Then there's a little gap between the two buildings. The rest to the right there is the boat storage, bait and tackle, and the restaurant is the furthest out on the wharf. Next slide, please. The second slide here is more detail showing the floor plan layouts of each of the spaces. So again, at the very beginning, there's the public restrooms. You can see the watercraft there and the beginning building, lifeguard area with a little stair that goes up to the lookout up the top. Then that small gap or walkway between the two buildings. Then you'll see the boats stored in the boat storage area. And then the retail area is the open space right next to where the boats are. Then you'll see elevator and staircase that goes up to the second floor. And then the restaurant is out to the right there. Next slide, please. The second floor, out to the left-hand side there, the X through that big space just signifies that it's a two-story open space. That's because the proposal for the boat storage is stacked. There's a proposal for 18 boats to be stored in that space. Then you'll see the elevator and the staircase right there kind of in the center. And then there's a bar and table seating, and then outdoor deck is the furthest out to the right with all the tables. There's a little bit of budget discussion there too. Actually, go back to the previous slide there just to mention. The total cost estimates for this construction are $5.8 to $6.2 million. That's the hybrid between option 6 and option 7. And Dan, take it away with the exterior.
Missing a few things here. Okay. So you'll see kind of the height, and we understand, like when we're developing the plan here, that massing and the kind of the size is kind of an important part of the wharf, right? So a lot of it's driven based off the function, like Dan was mentioning. There are stacked boats in the boat area, and so they're going to work on a kind of a lift system, so they rotate up and down. And so if we obviously there's a two-story element as well. So in looking at the massing, we tried to be cognizant of that and also make it appropriate both in architectural style. So what you'll see is the height of this. It's elevated up already a foot off of the wharf so that the structure, the utilities can actually be supported, and there's actually floor space. So it's sitting on top of the deck basically. That kind of drove the height, and we developed kind of like there's still some wiggle room in there. So it's kind of creating an envelope for a developer to come in and say, okay, we understand the functionality, and what does that do for the massing? So there's some flexibility in the discussion in there, and there's actually some room to kind of modify the height by a foot or two here and there in this kind of envelope. So you'll see that at the kind of on the left-hand side on the top image, that is the first building you as you approach the bathrooms and the
This meeting is being recorded.
So you'll see the bathrooms in the lifeguard tower, and it kind of tapers as you approach, so that it's kind of got this tiered approach to where you have the lower single-story building with the two-story kind of boat and tackle, and then the restaurants behind that. So as you approach it, it's got a kind of a smaller scale, and then it enhances on the top. We'll get into, actually, let's go to the next slide, because I think there's some more revealing kind of stuff. So if you look at the top right-hand image, that's what you see as you approach. And you can kind of see the silhouette of the restaurant and the boat and bait behind it. The image on the upper left is if you were at the head of the wharf looking back. Or I take that back. That's actually a cross section between the walkway between the two buildings. So there's a little canopy that covers that walkway between the two structures. On the bottom left hand is if you were standing at the head of the wharf looking back towards the building. So where the restaurant is, where you have the active kind of upper deck and then the lower kind of eating area. And then this other image on the bottom right is the looking back at the lifeguard tower from the walkway. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This is just kind of a blown up version of that. One of the things we really thought would be important is to introduce some artwork into the building. So the idea was as you approach the wharf, if you look at the bottom right-hand side, is to not just make it a mundane building, that it has some kind of artwork in an abstract way. Maybe it's reminiscent of, in this scenario, kind of like an artistic representation of like maybe even kelp or some kind of movement in the ocean to kind of give it a cool artistic vibe and bring that onto the wharf. So. And we kind of did that at everywhere you slice kind of the building at the end. So it's kind of in this wrapped in this shell of wood. If everybody's seen the bathrooms out there now, you'll see the wood that we used out there. The idea was to kind of take that similar element where it's very reminiscent of a fishing village, and it kind of naturally kind of weathers and has that vibe of a coastal fishing town. So, okay, you can go to the next one. This is kind of a cross section. You can see where the boats are stacked. So that's an open 2-story space on the upper side. If you look all the way to the left, you can see where the upper deck is, what has a windscreen on it. We imagine to try to maximize the days of usage where it's comfortable out there to have like windscreens on both opposite sides, and then an open to the kind of the ocean side. The bathrooms, you can see the stair tower leaning up to the lifeguard lookout. So the lookout kind of faces back towards the beach, and you can get a good scan of both Capitola Beach and overlooking towards Hoopers. Okay, go to the next slide. This is a cross section showing, you can see the boats stacking, the 18 boats that Dan was talking about. You can see the ladder going up to the lookout for the lifeguard tower on the upper right, and then some cross sections through the restaurant area and the vertical circulation. So now, the kind of the look and feel, this kind of gives a little bit of better the story of the overall kind of vibe of the building. So again, the use of natural materials to help blend it in with the wharf. Lots of indoor, outdoor. We wanted to really try to kind of let the proposed developer know that, hey, the idea is that this is a wharf that people are going to use. They're going to like the functionality. They're going to want to come out here. They're going to want to come inside and outside. So how do we kind of create an element where they can be protected, but also have the in and out flow and use of the wharf and see about both directions? Because a lot of times we've worked on the Santa Cruz wharf on buildings out there as well. And what you'll find is that they're very one directional. A lot of times they just kind of focus on one side and just ignore the other. In our case, I mean, you want to have the experience of all sides of the wharf. So this, in hopes, this helps to do that. So go to the next slide. We're going to go through a quick few visions. A lot of these will be just kind of, you can kind of see where the boat crane is there. But these will be quick. We can go to the next one. Some night shots showing where we wanted to introduce that dancing deck again, because I know we got a lot of community feedback about people really wanting to use that upper deck. And that was like a really good experience for them. So kind of bringing that back and also creating a dining deck on the lower level. We talk about resiliency and how do we protect the building. You put some money into this and a developer. So the idea is when a storm does come, we can batten down the hatches basically. And so the whole the dining deck lifts up and closes the head of the wharf off. We talked about doing it elsewhere, and that's something up for discussion in a future development plan, is to be able to seal off a lot of the openings and kind of batten it down when storms do come. So here's kind of a picture looking back out, showing some of the artwork, and you're kind of seeing as you're walking down from the beginning of the wharf. You can go to the next one. These are some more daytime kind of shots. The restaurant, lower level, with operable windows to kind of look out. This is the upper level leading out to the roof deck. Really wanted to create a sense of light and space and be able to really take advantage of the view. Okay, I think that, and then if it works, we have a little rendering, or animation that just to kind of look at, to give a gist of all the sides and the proportions in relationship to the village.
Hopefully it works. It's great.
Maybe. Might not work. Yeah, if it works.
I'm sorry, I tried to save it as a link into a presentation and it's not showing up in the presentation. So
Okay.
We
can go to questions if you want to.
And if you
I
can work
can
it out,
try to do that. Great. Thank you guys so much. It's beautiful. We'll start with Mr. Clark.
So questions. I went and saw the markings on the wharf today, and it looks like it's further back from the to where the restaurant was before. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe it moved back by like 35 feet-ish in that range. So it's further away from the head of the wharf. Yeah.
Yeah, good thought. I have more comments about the lifeguard headquarters, but I'll wait for that in the next little bit. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Are these beautiful, beautiful job? It's gorgeous, like the renderings and everything. Are these plans final, or are we, or can we still make edits? This is the final draft.
So this is
right.
really a framework to guide, because once if you guys approve the RFP and it goes out to a developer that's interested, they're going to actually come back and take this as a guide to develop the restaurant, the usage, the functionality, and whatnot, and probably they could definitely make tweaks to it. So no, it's not final.
Okay.
It's just more of a guide to guide them into a direction that we see could be an appropriate kind of context.
I see square footages for the restaurant, for the boat and bait, but I don't see a square footage for the lifeguard tower. And if we want to make it like a comprehensive lifeguard headquarter, is there still some flexibility to increase the floor area ratio for that?
I think there was some square footages on here. There is some square footages on here. If my eyes were better.
I know.
I'd see that.
The square
It's so kind
footages
of
are based
small.
on feedback we got from lifeguards. So this is what they wanted, but
It's interesting because since this agenda published, we have had also feedback from current lifeguard and emergency response folks, people who in our community who we respect, and who have mentioned, in order to make this more comprehensive and safe, like we should have an office and have maybe more space for a 1.5 car garage. And then the second story, just looking at the rendering, it's beautiful, but there isn't a 360 view of the Monterey Bay because of the restaurant and the building behind it. Is there a creative way to, how do we fix that problem?
There was definitely a discussion about that, and we had a solution for it. But there was kind of talks about minimizing it. Maybe the lifeguard tower might even be a thing because of the location. That was a discussion that came up. There was a note put in this plan set, and you'll see it on the dining deck, that the lifeguards have access to that as another viewpoint in an emergency situation, if they need to have access to that, so that if there's whatever, they have access when it's closed or whatnot, to get up there into that deck to have the better view. But yes, we did talk about that. And we had an elevated kind of lifeguard tower at one point, but over many discussions, it ultimately said, hey, this might go away, but obviously it's something still to be considered.
I see. So what I'm hearing from you is these plans aren't final. This is a rendering. And once we do have this interested private party, we can negotiate kind of what is best for
Yes,
the
and
city.
I think the city can speak better to the who's taking ownership of what portion of that, because there is a private element to it and there's a city element to it. And I believe the city's going to take ownership of the bathrooms and the lifeguard station. The private developer will take ownership of the restaurant and Bone Bait.
Okay, great.
There may be some kind of mix-up of that or combination.
Yeah, in the RFP, we addressed that we'll be looking at all proposals. So whether or not we develop the restrooms or a private entity is still up for discussion.
Great. And this question is for our city manager, and I know we've had this on the agenda last year, and I know the answer to the question I'm going to ask you anyway. Do we have a citywide leasing policy for city-owned properties?
No, we don't.
I would like to see that come back, especially when we're talking about leasing spaces for this wharf in the future. And what would a leasing agreement look like?
Well, a lease agreement for a structure like we've seen proposed this evening, or even a structure that's half of what we saw this evening, would be significantly different, I think, than some of our other leases that we have in the city. So because it would entail such a large outlay of capital by the private sector, it would probably be a longer term. So I think this lease, the terms of it are TBD, obviously, and we need to see first step is there private sector interest in doing this, and then what terms would they propose, and then we decide whether or not it's something as a city we'd be interested in pursuing. And there's kind of steps along the way where we sort of each express interest, and there's a negotiating period, and then there's sort of milestones that would have to be met as we move forward into ultimately what hopefully be a final lease and development project.
So if we want them to build a bigger lifeguard headquarters with bathrooms, we can negotiate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if that, I think that's certainly one of the components that could be negotiated. One of the things I've thought about is the way City of Santa Cruz does it is they actually set their lifeguard tower back from the buildings. We don't have as much length, but that's another option. But we could negotiate with the proposed developer, about having some space within one single facility, for example.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Westman?
So I'll do my questions first. So this building that you're proposing is significantly larger than what you showed on options either 6 or 7 when we presented this to the community and had the community discussions?
I wouldn't say significantly larger. It's a hybrid between options 6 and 7, so both of those options were kind of put together. I don't know, it depends on what significant means, but I personally wouldn't consider it significantly larger, but it is larger. It's slightly taller, but there's more function. There's more services in this building than in the previous setup.
But it extends like 40 feet further inland than what we had presented at that meeting.
You're talking about at the community outreach meeting?
Yes. Looked at option 7.
It should be pretty close. What was the overall length of option 7? I can't recall in the community meeting.
Well, I actually, I won't get into it. I went through it and went through the plans on option 7 and, where the hoist is located and where that. And if you draw a line and you scale it off on the small drawings we had, so it could be 38 feet, it could be 42 feet. It could be,
I'll tell you what kind of did grow a little bit. We did talk to, because we've done this on the Santa Cruz Wharf. We're working on some buildings out there, very similar kind of concept. And one of the things that kind of makes a deal go through for a developer in this situation is the size of the kitchen. The bigger the kitchen, the more people they can feed and serve, the more money they can make, which in turn benefits them and the city. So that kind of drove a lot of it, because before in the previous rendition, by the time you get vertical circulation with the stair, elevator core and whatnot, and then we added, we added a bathroom. If you look at one of these drawings, I thought we had it. Yes, we added a bathroom in there, I believe.
You're right. It is bigger than what was shown in those original plans, but it's due to the kitchen, the bathroom, some other things.
Yes, that bathroom that we added, you'll kind of see it near the elevator core, is an accessible bathroom for the restaurant. So there's actually a natted bathroom. There's the one at the head of the wharf, and there's also one in the restaurant for the patron use. So it did extend it a little bit. Yes, you're right.
One additional item is the fold down deck is an extension from what you saw previously. So that extends.
Hold down deck wasn't what was marked out there. That's in
Correct.
addition to the mark.
You're right. You're right.
That were out there. Yep. So, and going back and looking through, the stakeholder meetings and stuff that we had before, the number one thing that people wanted was strong support for preserving and enhancing fishing uses. And so can you sort of explain to me in this plan how the fishing uses are expanded and enhanced? And
Yeah.
if you look at the plan, it almost seems like we tried to hide the fishing boats and make fishing sort of tidy it away somewhere so it wasn't seen.
Wish you could see the video because it kind of shows some of that, but it does if we actually go back to some of the renderings, I don't know if that's possible. There was some that kind of showed the glass going up.
Yeah, we're 20 seconds away from
downloading?
download, and I feel like if I
Let's not mess it up.
If I change the channel right now, it may take us another 5 minutes. So almost there.
Just to give you an idea, there's some lift up doors, and you'll see that there's 2 sets on both sides that are glass that you can see through, and on the end. So you can actually see the boats in the storage area, and it kind of leads you into the bait and tackle area. So the idea is... Yeah.
These will be sort of the historic wooden boats that are there, that they're going to use the same boats.
Yeah, so the idea is that as you're walking past, we've kind of, and the size of the doors, that you've blurred that line and distinction between the inside and the outside so that people can just... We think it'll encourage people to actually walk into the boat and bait rather than having to go find a single door. You can actually walk through a large door and you'll be able to see what's available. Hopefully there's some interaction between the inside and outside. So we try to make that visual a little more transparent.
Enhancing the fishing, the building is now further away from the Hooper side of the edge of the wharf. So now you can fish all sides when the previous building was set up where that side was more of like an alleyway where all the trash was. So now it's there's 360 around, or 270 around that end of the wharf there.
Well, I'll let you do the video and I'll save the rest of my questions for later.
Oh, it came up. All right.
All right.
Mayor?
This is the lower level of the restaurant area.
There's music too. We don't sing or anything.
It's a little weird. That didn't sound right. This is the upper level. Looking back. Give you a sense. Trying to beat the cap with the wharf restaurant back. So Susan, again, to answer your question like that, the idea is that the doors will actually roll up or tilt up to the effect that you can actually have that really good connection visually and physically to go into the boat and bait area.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I'll wait till.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to thank you. I've been through a lot of, let's say, school district projects, community center projects and stuff like that. and the degree and the detail that you guys went to is very much appreciated in all those renderings and then to follow up with the video. So very impressive, and thanks for all the hard work that your whole firm did for that. With that, I just wanted to kind of piggyback onto Councilmember Orbach's question. Right now we're proposing, the building's proposed at 6,000 square feet, and we have an RFP out. If a developer, potential partner came in and said, this is what we're looking for, we want to build 4,000 square feet, and they were the perfect partner for the city, and it met the needs of what has been laid out by the community. This is just a vision that's trying to create to instill interest into our community, to have people come and invest. Is that correct?
That's correct. The square footage we're showing, they're not minimums. There's not a maximum. This is really just to get the idea out there, and then the future partner would come up with the final plan, but it would also have to be vetted by the city council.
Right. And then when I heard a comment like you said, a bigger kitchen, but if the right partner came in and they served a different type of menu option, they might want a smaller kitchen or something like that, so that it could shrink in that area. But so did you guys go out and do outreach to projects like this and said, we think the kitchen should be, whatever I'm just making, 40 by 40, and this is what we think, and so that's why you guys plugged in, and that's why the project has grown to that level?
Yeah, we've worked with a restaurant developer before in a very similar situation on multiple projects. And so we use them as a guide to say, hey, if you were serving this many people, what makes it viable financially for you? And so based on that, there's percentages of kitchen, what kind of equipment you need to serve that many people and to have that kind of turnover. So we were looking at it more from a dollars and cents standpoint of what would be an attractive to at least one individual. There might be somebody else with a different kind of formula in a program that works for them, which is great. This was one scenario where we talked about what's an ideal size, and what's an ideal size for the whole experience, whether it be indoor dining, outdoor dining. Having use of some of the exterior deck to seat, which minimizes some of the building size, is a key factor, because then you can just obviously serve more patrons. Kitchen size was kind of based off of keeping a periphery, that lowering deck, being able to seat that, the indoor dining, plus obviously maybe some to go, which is kind of nice. So being able to.
I think I saw like another kitchen upstairs. Is that correct? A smaller, and so a value engineering idea could be like, no, we'll operate with one kitchen downstairs and have a dummy waiter, whatever they wanted to. But that would then change the design. But that's really our partner coming in to our city, working with collaboration to say, I think what we're trying to do is say, here's a dream. What can you do to come back and invest in Capitola to try and make this thing? I think that follows up to the next question with the lifeguard station. We've heard comments back about that. You guys, is it just that you just developed a spatial footprint of what that can look like, and we would work if we have a partner, and if the city is running or has the ownership of the lifeguard and the bathrooms for say, like, we don't know the exact size of what the bathrooms would be that the city would need, but with the lifeguard station, would we reach out to our local fire department and our lifeguards and stuff like that, and then kind of see like what those uses are going to look like and how those uses all come together? Or was that a part of your guys' scope of work to go through to have that?
This was definitely a guided response in that just getting feedback of what could use. Actually, the lifeguard station was a little bit bigger at one point, but we decided to give more room to boat and bait because there was discussions about maybe it's just a personal watercraft, and maybe there's not an office. Maybe there is just the lifeguard tower along with the personal watercraft, because depending on how it's manned, or because I believe the lifeguards are currently at J Street Park, maybe, or somewhere else they're located.
Yeah, the head lifeguard coordinator's office is at Jade Street. They do spend most of their summer on the beach right now, but yes, they don't have a specific office there.
So that was kind of a gray area of what the actual desire. There's definitely a desire to have it from some parties, but the actual total usage, I think it's still up in the air as to what is the perfect formula for what it could be.
I think there's probably two parts to that. Lifeguard from the standpoint, but then reach out with our local fire department if they're going to have a need or to use or want to. They might have a need that might have to be a little bit bigger. Maybe they want to invest. Maybe they're our new partner.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. And at the end of the day, I think there's also conversations with a potential developer about, there's a large garage that's being proposed to store boats. And so, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of for that, use that as a personal, some sort of lease back space where we could store a personal watercraft there. Is there an opportunity to partner in that way as well? So I think a lot of these details are still TBD, but there's definitely different options and there's different visions, and it'll come down to dollars and cents, what really makes sense for the city.
And I think when I looked at the plans, I was just trying to highlight that there was a lifeguard station feature. And I mean, I think we all look value engineering options would be if that was all in one building, right? I mean, and there was, not so much of a separation or in bathroom shared use and stuff like that. So great. My next question is just, I guess, question back to our director. I saw on the timeline, you said it'd go to council, then planning, and then it seemed like it came back to council at the agreement standpoint. Would we be able to see it in that timeline, find out it sounds like we might be saying, yes, we are interested, but what the final design was through planning before it got down to agreement, that we'd have feedback?
Yeah, so actually the first step would be that we would put in this agreement in place with council. That would be once we've found someone to partner with. And then they would start working on their renderings. They would come first to council with what they're thinking for a design, and then to planning commission to make sure to get their entitlements. But the first step would always be, because it's city property, to come to council, make sure, we don't want to get them in front of planning commission and hear something different from council, who's really in charge of the lease. And then after planning commission, if you'd like it to come back to council, we could do that. If there were any changes.
I think if it was a very small one, but if we got coming out of planning, if there were some bigger changes, I think before we got down to agreement, and you can make that judgment call if you thought it was really something that should come back. I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that step. And then I think it's just good to take the opportunity again. I think I've asked you guys in the past, and if you could just highlight again, because a lot of times people talk about the structural integrity of the wharf, and I think you guys had a structural engineer here before. And could you just, I guess you can't reassure us on the condition of the wharf and what it is, but about what the structural engineer has commented about the wharf and the improvements that the city did that were so amazing, and how it's standing up today, and that this would be a viable option for us to be looking at a partner for.
Yes. So our partner engineer, Mothra Nickel, they kind of advised at the community meetings, and even again after we designed the building, is basically the wharf was kind of set up to handle any of the 7 options that we presented during the process, right? Their biggest concern was vehicular traffic or moving things on the wharf. That was like their biggest structural concern. As far as a stable building with a dead load and the live loads of the people, they're already accommodated the live loads of patrons and lots of people on the wharf with factors of safety. So they've basically said pilings, they've already, with the re-engineering, redesign of the wharf, that's already taken care of. So if anything, they would look at certain areas under the building and just add additional girder supports underneath.
I mean, for the
most part, it was set up for any of those scenarios.
Almost, I heard that even having a building like that might even provide some
additional rigidity.
Yeah, rigidity to it, having a load like that for holding more of it together as one mass and everything.
Yes, he did mention that in one of the city.
So I just thought it's important just take the opportunity to highlight again, because we forget, and new people come to the community and they look at pictures from way back when or a couple of years ago, and they say what, but the improvements that we did that money was well spent and well engineered, so it sets us up for this partnership. Those are all my questions I had at the time. Thank you.
Great. Most of my questions were answered. I wanted to make sure we're still looking at the same size boat, because I was like 18 of what kind of boats? Okay. And yes, just to clarify that this is a potential situation. I don't know how that RFP will look, but just to show that it's possible that the RFP is somewhat open and fluid for somebody to come to us, that it's not just, this is all that they can produce. And then, yeah, I guess I remember us talking about a jet ski storage, but I didn't ever really remember a tower, so I was a little foggy on that. I think if we decide that it's necessary to push for that. I would just be concerned that a developer may not want to like dip their toes in that water, and then that would be solely on us, or maybe fire. I don't know, but I guess is my memory correct on that? Or
Yes, originally we were looking at a storage area for a jet ski, which would be a safety device used by the lifeguards, as well as public bathrooms. That was the original, within our original RFP to fuse. We did get public comment during the public outreach about possibly having some type of lifeguard tower. And so they incorporated that into this. I think the next step when we do have a partner would be, as we're looking at different scenarios, to get feedback from the council of whether or not that's the appropriate place for the tower. It's set behind a building. So we may want to think about different locations on the wharf, but the bathrooms was something that we had, was a big emphasis of having bathrooms at the end of the wharf because it's so inconvenient for people to walk back. So yeah, nothing's written in stone at this point.
Yeah.
And we can relook at it once we have somebody interested in the development.
And maybe I'm going into the weeds, sorry. But so the jet ski, where is it going to live? Would it live in that little, or would it live in the water and then it's pulled in and out every day? Like what, in an emergency, is it ready to go, or do we have to hoist it in? Or
The idea that I understand is the jet ski would be stored in the storage, and then if there's an emergency, we would use the hoist to lower the jet ski. But
okay.
I'm under the understanding that it would be deployed every day during the summer.
Okay.
First thing in the morning, just like the boats that are rented.
Got it.
And
okay, sorry. I know that's like way into the future, but I'm just.
But yes, that is an
thinking.
operational question.
Okay, cool. I think that's all my questions. Do another one, yeah.
I'm sorry, could you it help me understand today what is our lifeguard, like what services do we provide? Like we have 2 towers, and do we have lifeguards on the wharf now? I mean, I don't know if you know those details, but I don't know how that really works.
So I'm not the expert, but I will take it as far as I know. We do have 2 towers, towers 1 and 2 on Capitola Beach, and they are staffed during the summer from, I think it's Memorial Day through, I want to say the third Sunday in October, maybe. And then we'll have like a rover in between. So we don't have staff currently assigned to the wharf. So if there is an event or a medical incident that occurs, we're either sort of going on foot to respond from one of the towers to get out there, or AMR or Central is responding vehicularly down Wharf Road onto the wharf.
Okay. So this is all would be an enhancement to the safety of Capitola by having a new feature of having a lifeguard station. And then the conversation would be how would that be staffed? And that's all a whole nother discussion later, right?
Yeah, that's correct. This would, I mean, if we were to have another lifeguard tower, hypothetically, on the wharf, that would be either a 3rd tower or potentially maybe would mean that we wouldn't have to have 2 on the beach. That's another option. Again, I think, that's getting pretty far out.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand what the services we provide today and all that. So thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Great questions. Thank you, guys. This is beautiful. I will take it to public comment. So anybody that wishes to speak on this item, please come on up. You'll have your 3 minutes. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much, Cami Corvin, resident and business owner in Santa Cruz County, but in Capitola. So, great rendition, by the way, of what you guys did. I thought it was really wonderful. I do have a couple thoughts and something to think about was the building is really pretty. My family's been here over 100 years, and on the west side, we lived very close to the beach, and my mother had put up the wood shingles on our house, right? And they look great when they get weathered by the coastal stuff, but they don't last very long. So I think my thought would be, like, how long would these last? What would the cost replacement be for that? And if that's even something the city has to worry about. But that would be like an expenditure that maybe needs to be thought about, taken into consideration. The other thing is, I'm pretty experienced with the lifeguard situation in that I was the communication officers for the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary here and also the communication officer at Station Monterey. And I worked with Sector San Francisco, the Helos, and I worked very closely with Santa Cruz Wharf and their team a lot of times with their lifeguards. I think the important thing to think about is it's not a big distance between Santa Cruz Wharf and Capitola, but it is a distance if there is an emergency. I can't tell you how many May days that I've had where we've had to respond Monterey, which takes a long time for their RBS 19 or the MLB 45 to come out. And so that has to be taken into consideration. We need to have something that's immediate, and that would be something that I think would not only enhance Capitola, but the safety of the people that are here, especially tourists. They don't understand about the ocean. They don't understand about riptides. They don't understand about just general safety in general. You mix it with drinking and all kinds of things. You have events during the 4th of July, fireworks, things like that. We all know how that goes. So I think it's very important that you look at having a radio communications on the wharf in your little lifeguard tower that you're looking at and possibly looking at expanding it, having that jet ski available, hoisting it in and out during the appropriate hours, and available for the rest of the times. It's just something to think about. And I really feel that that would really enhance. So other than that, it looks really beautiful. It really does. I'm a little worried about that thing coming down though. I'm kind of worried, like I'm going to be there underneath it, right? But anyway, thanks so much, and thanks for your hard work, and appreciate the donations and all that kind of good stuff. So, all right, have a good evening. You'll see me again.
Thanks so much. Hi, welcome.
Hello, thank you. My name is Scott Harway. I came here to talk about a little bit about the lifeguard tower, some questions and points that everybody that had brought up. I think one of the problems that we're talking about is referring to it as a lifeguard tower. It would be more of a lifeguard headquarters is a conceptual idea I think that a lot of people were thinking. It'd be my opinion. I spent the last 30 years working for Central Fire, running their aquatic rescue response team and providing a lot of the ocean rescue, including here in Capitola. And it would be our vision, or the vision that we have for the current lifeguard division, is to have a 2-story, the bottom floor being a storage facility for a vehicle, a 4x4, all of our ocean rescue equipment that's down there. And the second would be a office with a 360 glass view so that they can be surveying the waters while they're doing their administrative duties. Capitola currently employs a year-round beach services captain that they identified lives or works up at Jade Street and currently doesn't have any view on the water. And although that's really important during the summer months, when we have the majority of our crowds that are there, in the summer months, we do staff our towers, as was said, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, 7 days a week, and then on the weekends after that through October. But we don't have any sight of what's going on the wharf, and we don't have any eyes on what's going on at Hooper's. We have no vision up there, or up on the riprap heading up towards Pirates Beach, where we have a lot of rescues and medical emergencies that happen every year. Even more important than that is that, like we said, that position is year-round. And for 7 months out of that year, when we still have a tremendous amount of people that are on our beaches, in our waters, and on our wharf, when we have our biggest swells, is we have no eyes on our water. And we have nobody surveying and being the first out to be able to identify a rescue and trying to provide help as fast as we can. I would like to see a kind of 3-story version to where the first story is storage. The second story would be an office space that has a 360 view. And we should be able to see everything with the exception of straight out in front of the wharf because of the 2-story presented building that would be in front of there. So perhaps then there could be a little lookout station that's pushed up on the 3-story so we could get a 360 view on there. And I think that's real important, as the lady before me just spoke, to be able to provide that year-round safety for not only the people that live here, but the visitors that come that don't understand the ocean and don't understand our water. And that position for that person to be down there, like Mayor Jensen said, Councilman Jensen said, is that they can provide EMS support as well for any sort of medical emergencies that happen on there. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. For those of you who haven't read this, I'm requesting that you please pause the adoption of the Wharf Master Plan because A lifeguard station on the wharf is not conducive to saving lives in the ocean. A guard would have to leave, a lifeguard needs to keep their eye on the problem. A guard would have to leave the tower, go back down to the entrance of the wharf to the stairs, and lose track of the problem in the water, then go out onto the beach unsure where the distressful situation occurs. A lifeguard couldn't even see the ocean from that vantage point over the 2-story building that is proposed in front of it. Then let's see. That would be totally irresponsible and time consuming. So as a former lifeguard, I request that you eliminate the lifeguard station because they belong on the beach where the action is. Number two, does the storage, bait, and tackle shop really need to be 2 stories tall? That would make it out of scale with the wharf, and boats don't really need to be stacked. They aren't right now. Plus, being attached to the restaurant, it would block the visitors from getting to the other side of the wharf to enjoy that view, and at least have the walkway between the restaurant and the bait and tackle shop and keep it at 1 story like it has been. Also, be sure that the picnic tables are far enough away from the fishermen so that their casting doesn't hit those seated at the tables. Plus, if you have the 2-story building on the Hooper side of the wharf, you want to be sure that they can cast their line on that side. Otherwise, it's kind of just view only. Anyway, thank you all for all you do. I really appreciate it. I'm not really sure how much views got for doing all of this hard work, but it's gone now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? All right. Seeing none, we can come back for discussion. I'll start with Ms. Westman.
Well, I agree. I think everybody's done an awful lot of work on this, and doing this wharf master plan has been a long process. I appreciate that in the beginning of it, we spent a lot of time involving the community and figuring out what they would like to have as well on the wharf. I know this, I don't want to see this process stopped because I think it's important that we go forward and we issue an RFP. I did read the resolution and I did read the entire RFP that was in our packet. And the way it's set up right now, it seems to me that it's pretty restrictive. I know we keep saying, well, this is a conceptual plan, this is a conceptual idea, but for a lot of the community, I think what's being proposed is going to be way out of scale from what they had anticipated was going to be there. And I don't want to see us limit ourselves in who can come up with ideas for what they would like to see on the wharf. So I would like to see the staff make a real effort to rewrite the RFP. And, you know, I'm willing to trust them that they would do that in a way so it provides more flexibility and shows that, yes, this is a wharf master plan, but this is not the plan. This was, you know, just some concept that was developed, and that by looking at this particular plan, we're not guaranteeing that someone can build a 35-foot tall building or someone can build a 6,000 square foot building, because I think when we hear from the public, which really hasn't seen this, and the last plans they saw were significantly, and in my mind it is significantly smaller than what we're proposing right now. So I just want to see us, you know, have some flexibility. I think it's important to go out to the outside world and see what's there and who might be interested in doing something. I think it's fine to, show someone the pretty pictures that have been developed, but I don't think anyone should have the idea that they need to do even this style building, with this kind of wooden roof, which, personally I think might be a bit impractical for someone. Someone who wants to have the fishing be, a significant part, because that's one of the things that the community wanted, and have an ability to come up with their own ideas. So I get a little concerned about adopting a resolution that says this is the wharf master plan, because for me, we're not at a place where we have a wharf master plan. We have ideas about things we would like to see out there. We don't know what kind of lifeguard facility we're going to end up with. If certain things change in the county, we might, end up partnering, as was mentioned, with Central Fire and want something quite different than what's being proposed. So, I can go forward with, recommending to the staff and authorizing them to send out an RFP that provides a lot of flexibility in it. I sort of wondered why we were adopting a resolution in the first place, because we don't normally adopt a resolution to send out an RFP. Because for me, I don't want to say this is the wharf master plan and lead people to believe that this is what is going to be done out there. So those are my beginning comments.
Great, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I concur with what your comments and stuff. I look at, like, if the building size is too large, I'd be interested to find out, this shows interior boat storage. So, if we cut that part of the building off, the building would be significantly smaller and the boats would be out on the wharf like they are today. But maybe to the right person, an investor who maybe wants to buy, let's say, brand new boats and wants to use them more as a highlighted attraction, and that people watch the boats get stored up and down and they're in the restaurant. I want to make sure we have that flexibility. So I appreciate, this is a vision of what could be, but completely agree that when I read through the RFP was, I want to make sure we're open for business. We have a vision. That we want something out in the wharf. I think it might be interesting, or an idea too, if the city also attaches maybe some of the public outreach, and so they can see some of the other things that maybe might have been not as highlighted in this master plan, but they might say, well, I have a different idea for better fishing experience or something like that. And then, I just think that, what's the best way to sell Capitola? And I think it's a great document. It's great for a vision, and see if we get somebody interested to come back to look at that. Thank you.
Councilmember Rohrbach?
Yeah, I think, I agree with my council members where, and that's, I think, my understanding as well, that there is a lot of flexibility still, that yes, this is a beautiful rendering, a beautiful vision. And I don't want to lose sight that this is also a great economic development opportunity, as well as an opportunity for us to ensure we have facilities within our city that really enhance safety for our community. So thinking about, moving forward with, any partnership, we have to make sure that it's going to benefit the city. And I agree, if it's the language in the RFP that can promote and allow more flexibility, I am in support of that.
Great. Clark?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. We do have to allow for flexibility, although I certainly love the plans here, and it'd be awesome if we can get to that. But flexibility, we'll definitely have to have flexibility in our RFP. Talking a little bit about the lifeguard headquarters tower, whatever you want to call it. Just earlier this week, we had a call where two surfers were out in front of privates screaming for help, and a big squall came in. This was just this storm last Monday, and they dispatched Capitola PD, Central Fire, and the Sheriff's Office, and they got on scene and they could see the two surfers, and the squall got so bad they couldn't see them anymore. So Capitola PD came to the pier and the wharf, and they couldn't see anything either. They had lifeguards coming from the other side of town. I believe it was the harbor. And but they got into the area, they couldn't find them. And the way the storm was going, the set and drift, they started heading down farther towards New Brighton Beach. The two surfers were finally found out in front of New Brighton Beach. So that just goes to say that if we had the lifeguard tower here, we would have better eyes. And that could be, if it's not during the season when our lifeguards are here, Central Fire can certainly use it. We can get a ski in the water. We can get somebody out there a lot quicker than coming from all the way from the other side of town. So that is probably the reason why we need one. And the lifeguards could use the PWC or the ski. Central Fire can use it, or Capitola lifeguards could use it. It's just a great place to put something that would be an asset just for public safety. So that's why I think we really need to push for the lifeguard tower. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think we're at a good place where everybody is. I don't think we would need the RFP to come back to us, just as long as it's clear that flexibility is what we're going for. We'll use that word again. And then I think too, if to Council Member Orbach's point about the leasing policy, if not just to this idea, but elsewhere in the city, if that needs cleaning up, maybe we should look at that. I don't know. We're making a motion.
Thank you. Julia tries to keep me talking in my microphone, and she has to go to great extremes. Sorry about that. I'll make a motion that we move forward with doing the RFP with the direction to staff to loosen up the language a little bit so there's more flexibility in that. And my motion would be not to adopt the resolution because I think it's unnecessary at this point in time. And that's it.
I can second that. Great. We have a motion and a second. Maybe we have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach?
Aye.
Councilmember Westman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jensen?
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Passes unanimously. Great work, everybody. Thanks to Fuse. Really appreciate it.
Can I ask a follow-up question outside of that? Do you mind if I just ask Steph, do you think it's something that you put on your radar, as many other things that you have on your radar, but to look at the relationship between Capitola and Central Fire about who does the water rescue and what their involvement and what their vision of it is long-term, and how we, both agencies, if you want to call it, protect our community? And it might be nice to, I don't want to say a presentation or something, but just to highlight what that relationship looks like, or potentially what's going to be in the future and stuff. So not connected to this, but I think that I hate to get to a point that we have a lifeguard station and then we don't know if Central Fire Department wants to be a partner in that. So just
yeah, that's definitely a conversation we can continue to. We've had in the past. We got pretty far down the road at one point. But I think it's a conversation we could reignite for sure.
And I think it is a conversation that can wait a couple of months because May and June are going to be pretty intense.
I've been in conversation with them, and it seems like there's some different viewpoints on safety in our community. So just when this ever comes back, but if it's just an idea that we start to have some legwork about that.
And I think the more partnerships we can do, the better off we are.
We're going to take a 3-minute restroom break. I know. I know. I was like, I want to work there. I want to dance. Welcome back. We are at item 8B, the 41st Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation and Multimodal Improvements Project. Welcome back.
Thank you. The item before you tonight is actually a project that our Public Works Director has been leading, but we're both working on different projects. I've got the 41st Avenue Corridor project, which is overlapping on one corner, and we're suggesting a change to the 41st Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation and Multimodal Improvement Projects, which you awarded a contract on March 26th. We've been working on our 41st Avenue Corridor project. In that project, we're really talking about placemaking and enhancements and really giving an identity to 41st Avenue, Clare Street, and Capitola Road, and also improving multimodal transportation. That project will be coming to you, I think, late May. But there is an opportunity within Director Khan's project to incorporate a gateway monument. And that gateway monument would be located in front of the Pizza My Heart on the corner of 41st Avenue and Gross Road, as shown in this picture. And so there are right now 2 parking spaces there. At times, you'll see 3 cars there if they're small and parked close together. And we're suggesting that the street have kind of a bulb out in terms of for pedestrian crossing to be more safe, and then an opportunity for a Welcome to Capitola gateway. This is what it looks like today with 2 cars parked in that space. And this is a rendering. This is just showing, this is I believe, our consultant utilizing some AI and creating a couple images. So I've got a few of them for you, but this is the wave. And then we also have this idea of, which you're seeing many cities do now with the colorful city logo so people can take pictures and promote your city. But the idea here is really we would hire an artist, come up with our own unique sign that's really reflective of Capitola. But we think this is a great location, and this is the time in which to make that modification to the contract. So tonight we're looking for the City Council to authorize staff to modify the project scope of the 41st Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation Multimodal Improvement Project to include curb, sidewalk, and hardscape improvements at the corner of 41st Avenue and Gross Road extension to accommodate a future gateway monument. And this would work with the Arts and Cultural Commission. They would pick a design, it would probably come back to you, and then move forward. So it would really be a public engagement process. But at this time, it would include the curb, sidewalk, and hardscape improvements to that site. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
Have we spoke to the businesses about any hardships with the parking spaces?
We have not at this point.
I know there is, as you get farther away from the corner, there's a lot more parking, but I'm just curious.
We did look at the site and made sure that the turning radius could be met for the deliveries. We worked with Kimley Horn. They made sure the turning radius is correct in order to get the automobile deliveries to the dealership. So that has been done on our end.
Okay, we will take, neither do I. We'll go to public comments on this item. If anybody wishes to speak, you'll have your 3 minutes. I see none. We'll come back for deliberation. We'll start on this side. Do you have any comments, Councilmember Westman?
I think it's a great idea and a great project, and we should go for it.
What about you, Vice Mayor?
I agree.
Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make the motion to authorize staff to modify the scope of the 41st Ave Pavement Rehabilitation and Multimodal Improvement Project to include curb, sidewalk, and hardscape improvements at the corner of 41st and Gross Road to accommodate a future gateway monument.
I'll second that and like to put out there, I like the wave.
I'll third that. All right, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach.
Aye.
Councilmember Westman.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jensen.
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll go to item 8C. It's our California Voting Rights Act challenge. We are here to consider a letter that we received.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 8C is a request for direction as set forth in this evening's this evening's staff report. The city received a CVRA demand letter. CVRA, of course, stands for the California Voting Rights Act. The letter alleges that the existing at-large voting system results in racially polarized voting, dilutes voting power of Latino voters, and violates the CVRA. The city disputes these allegations. However, the CVRA does not require plaintiffs to prove discriminatory or malintent, and as a result, these cases can be difficult to defend. Regardless of whether racially polarized voting exists, the CVRA does allow a voluntary process for jurisdictions to convert to by-district elections and avoid the cost of litigation. If the city decides to transition to districts, it can avail itself to certain safe harbor provisions contained in the Elections Code. Procedurally, the city has an opportunity to adopt a resolution of intent to convert to district elections within 45 days from the receipt of the letter. This is the first safe harbor window. With a receipt date of March 19th, 45 days out puts us at March 3rd for the deadline to consider and adopt a resolution of intent. If the city council adopts such a resolution, this triggers a second safe harbor period of 90 days to complete the transition to district elections. During this 90-day window, the city will have to work with the demographer to consider conceptually where districts might exist, draw maps to reflect those districts, consider the maps, deliberate, and then adopt those maps. The transition itself will involve several public hearings and lots of public outreach. And this is further detailed in the staff report. At this time, staff recommends scheduling a special meeting on April 30th to consider a resolution of intent and consider hiring a demographer to help with mapping services. That concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you. We'll start with questions.
I'm going to save my comments till we discuss this.
Okay. Any questions?
Can you go over the process for the demographer portion, and what does that look like?
Yes. So the city has released an RFP to invite responses from consultants that specialize in this type of work, and the city will evaluate the responses and provide a recommendation. Once the city selects a demographer, the demographer will start work on this process. They will evaluate results from past elections, census data, statistics about demographics within the city, any perceivable voting blocks, other voting patterns, things like that. And they will work with city staff to, again, develop potential maps. The maps will be publicly available for public input. Depending on the demographer selected and the kind of service package selected, there might be additional tools that members of the public and the council can use, interactive tools that might involve certain overlays to see where the maps differ and where they might have similarities. From there, there's two public meetings prior to the drawing of the maps. Once the maps are drawn, there's another two public meetings to consider the maps, and there might be additional public meetings if other maps are introduced, considered, maps are revised, things like that. So that's kind of the overall process of what the demographer is going to be helping the city with.
And the relationship with the demographer to the city, independent?
Yes, they would be an independent consultant that brings their expertise to the table and, looks at Capitola's data, tailors their approach, and provides the city with some options to consider.
Upfront public process that the demographer, all his data will be like, obviously the city will be hiring, but it's an independent firm that studies all this data on statistics and data. It's not, and so I guess I'm just saying it's not a city staff does this, a demographer does this. And so I just want to be, that's what my understanding is. I just want to be clear about that relationship.
Yes, the demographer will be driving the process and I think input and collaboration with staff in terms of, hey, I have questions about, this election cycle. Hey, could you give me those records, things like that. So there will be some back and forth, but the demographer will be driving.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I forgot. So I just have one question because I want to make sure from what we've heard going through this process and going to district elections will not, because of the timelines and when people have to take out papers to run for 2026, this won't be affecting the 2026 election. This would go into effect in 2028.
At this time, and based on our conversations with the county, 2026 would be difficult.
Thank you.
Questions?
So what if we say, no, we don't want to do this? Can you lay out what happens there?
Yes. No, we don't want to do this is a potential response that the council could select. That would not be staff's recommendation, given that there's again, these cases can be difficult to defend. Other cities that we've seen push back on this process have been exposed to litigation, have lost these cases, and have been on the hook for attorney's fees. And there are some examples that are highlighted in the staff report, but that would not be staff's recommendation.
So how will this logistically play out? I mean, perhaps this is a better question for subsequent meetings, but in terms of the timeline of council members going in and out, like if we do move forward with this process and we agree to some maps, like how does the phasing happen?
So if council provides direction this evening to staff to bring an item at a special meeting, that the potential resolution of intent would include a timeline. As we continue to research this matter, we'll provide some dates for when public hearings should happen and things like that. The timeline would be tentative, but assuming we go down this path and assuming that maps are eventually adopted, the city would have an ordinance to implement the maps, and that ordinance would include information about the first election cycle that will be affected, which, assuming there's 5 districts, when each district would come online for the first time, and in theory, after 2 waves of elections after the ordinance is adopted, at that point, the entire makeup of the council would consist of individuals elected based on their districts.
And how often do these maps typically get redrawn?
So these maps would be tied to census cycles, so every 10 years. Of course, we're now in 2026, and I know that other jurisdictions that already have district elections are considering, okay, we have 2030 around the corner, and they're starting to consider redistricting, evaluating whether the maps are good still, and whether to change them.
So you said the city stance is that we have not violated any of the Voter Right Act. Is that correct?
That is our position.
So you're saying that we can then move forward to see this happen in our city, but not saying that we've done anything wrong?
That's correct. This would not, it's not a concession that there's an issue. I think it's a recognition that the statute makes it very difficult for cities to succeed in defending these types of cases. Again, there's no, what I was saying earlier was, because the statute does not require any affirmative showing that there was discriminatory intent, the cases are just more difficult for us to defend. If it was a requirement of the statute, then that would certainly be one of our defenses of, there's no suggestion that there's any discriminatory intent by the city, by the council, through its elections process, anything like that.
And then again, you said it would be extremely costly if we were to fight it, and so it doesn't make much sense for us to take that position at this time.
Yes, I am not aware of a city that has successfully defeated a CVRA case once it's entered litigation. And I'll highlight city of Santa Monica as one example of a well-resourced city that did take up this fight. They took it all the way up to the California Supreme Court just to lose and have the matter remanded back down. Their attorney's fees are in the millions for that particular case.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not to put you on the spot, but just can you just follow up on Councilmember Westman when he said difficult for the 26th election? Can you take that a little further? Like, is it difficult timeline? I mean, can it be done, or is it not going to be done? And is it this? My understanding is the county has a lot of influence on this. It's not the city of Capitola. Is that correct?
Yes, so I'll start by saying it's not impossible to do. It is difficult because, as you mentioned, there are certain county deadlines that come into play, and I'll add too that we received this letter March 19th in an election year. So if the letter were to be received on an off election year, then there's more time to get the maps put together, things like that. And given the amount of public hearings and public outreach that might have to happen, it's hard to anticipate how many additional public hearings there might be. And that entire process, of course, takes time to play out. So at this point, it's difficult to determine or predict how many additional meetings there might be beyond the statutory minimum. But accounting for that and assuming there's a robust public process, there may be additional meetings that we'll have to add into the council's agenda.
Well, the county election clerk has dates that they need to have the maps approved by, right? And that's set by the county, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do we know what that date is?
I do not.
I believe it's July 1st. I do think the county clerk is present if you do have questions for her. She is in the audience, I believe.
Sure.
Council members, Tricia Weber, County Clerk, Registrar of Voters. First, I would like to say that July 1st is the deadline. It's 125 days prior to the election, and that's set forth in the California, state election code. It's not a county-driven thing, it's a state-driven thing. And I will also say that we can't move any new districts into production until after the state certifies the election, which is actually July 3rd. And that would only give us 1 week plus the weekend before candidate filing opens. Can it be done? Certainly. But obviously the longer we have the new precincts, the better it is for quality checks to make sure that everyone is receiving the ballot that they're supposed to for the November election.
Thank you so much for all that clarification.
You're welcome. And I'm here for any other questions, technicals that you may have.
I might actually have a question. So the maps would come to us, the city council would approve it, but then does the county also approve the maps, or it's just receiving them?
So it's just receiving them. We will, however, sit in during all of your public meetings because your demographer is going to draw the proposed lines based on census data and census tracts. They do not equal precinct lines. And so we will look at the proposed maps to see if there's something that's cutting through. I mean, we have precinct lines that go through buildings. Where up at UCSC, we have one half of the hall in one precinct and one half of the building in the other. So we look at that and look to make sure that the lines follow precinct lines as opposed to census data lines. But we don't approve it. You approve it, we take it, and we work with it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I guess we kind of already touched on it, but are you able to speak on like how the public would actually be involved creating maps or?
Yes, absolutely. So beyond attending the various public meetings, they can submit public comment in advance, say, I really like map number 1. I think map number 3 could be improved in these ways. They can also submit their own maps. And those maps will be available for other constituents to evaluate, comment on, things like that. And the council will have an opportunity to review those maps as well.
Great, thank you. And then, my other question was which election cycle, which we can't nail that down right this second. Any other questions?
I do have a follow-up question to your answer just now about how our residents can also be involved in this process and draw their own maps. But who double checks that the maps? Because it has to be equal population, right?
Yes, and that's going to be the demographer that does math.
I see.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We will go to public comment on this item. You'll have your 3 minutes to speak.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I want to start off by acknowledging what many of us are coming to understand about this, that given the legal landscape surrounding the CVRA, the transition to the district elections, it's not likely something that the city can realistically fight without a significant financial risk. So while this isn't really the path I think that we would want to take or choose, I think it's the ones in front of us right now. That being said, I do believe that this moment is an important opportunity for our community. District elections, if done thoughtfully, can create more direct and meaningful representation at the neighborhood level. But that only works in the districts if they're drawn fairly and if people who represent those districts are truly engaged within the community to which they serve. For example, in the areas like our mobile home parks, which are not only significant in size, but they also represent a longstanding, close-knit community, it's crucial that we recognize that we are recognized as a community and that our voices are heard and they should not be diluted or divided. So I want to speak a little briefly on that representation itself. It's been my experience that, and I want to say this as delicately as possible, but it's been my experience that council members who have made the effort to show up and listen, engage, and directly be with our community, that matters. It builds trust. It makes people feel seen and makes people feel heard. But at the same time, I think it's also fair to say that not all areas of Capitola have experienced the same level of engagement. And that's really my point I want to make tonight. If we're moving to a district-based system, this is an opportunity, and I would argue a responsibility, to ensure that each district has a representative who is present, accessible, and actively engaged with the people who live there. And if that doesn't happen naturally, then I have no doubt that the members of the community will step forward to ensure that it does. Because ultimately, this isn't about one person. It's about making sure that every part of Capitola feels represented and heard, and moving forward is in the best interest of the city. So I thank you tonight. This is a very difficult decision. I've been in the law field for over 40 years. It's not an easy one to look at, defend, and elsewise. And so you guys have a lot on your minds for this, and you're probably going to get some flack from the community regarding this. So I'm with you on this, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Good evening again. Okay, Capitola is 2 square miles, give or take. There are 5 of you up there. That gives you 4/10 of a mile apiece to be a district. So, do you all live in areas separate from each other to become members of your own district? I'm not sure that you do. The mandate would assume that every district would have someone to run for the city council. That means we might lose some of you. I wouldn't want to do that because I know how hard it is for you to get people to run for your positions. And believe me, I appreciate every single one of you for being up there. And what if they don't? Then how do you deal with empty districts without anybody running for city council? So, I mean, I would think that there must be something in terms of the size of the city in order to have districts make sense, because Capitola being 2 square miles probably doesn't. And my other question is, who pays for the demographer? We have a budget, remember?
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
So I heard a lot of smoke and mirrors on the schedule, and we all know that we are electing a majority of our council in 2026. So this really matters a lot. I hope you all had a chance to read Kevin McGuire's emailed comments tonight, because I think they had a lot of thoughtful, suggestive, fundamental things that we can do to help make this process work. Early in my engagement with Civic Capitola, I was invited to participate in a lobby group, that's what I called it, called the CVRA. It was comprised of representatives from different neighborhoods here in Capitola, and it was a really good experience because it became apparent that the proximity of your neighborhood to the village made a significant difference on the perspective that you had on issues that affected Capitola Village. And it was good to see people come together and talk about those different perspectives and come up with a solution. We have a lot of microclimates, and the variety on council is important. I've always been a proponent of, it doesn't matter the person that you elect, it matters the balance of the 5 people that we have serving the city. I don't believe Capitola has intentionally nor unintentionally discouraged different people, different races from participating. I can see where district voting will help encourage additional participation, and I'm in support of that. I do believe that the majority of our residents have a desire to be unique from the city of Santa Cruz in the way that our city evolves. That has become more and more important over the last few years. I also believe that the burden you each carry in time, effort, and energy is significant. Subjecting yourselves to public scrutiny all the time is a really big deal, and I thank all of you for putting yourselves in the position and serving the community in this way. I support council taking action to protect us from the needless legal expenses of fighting this, and I ask you to be intentional. And in setting up the fundamental foundational process where we transition to this, you got to think about it. You've got to work together as a group, collaborate together, look at the city, understand what we're about to do, which is going to change the nature of how we look at our community. We have a unique city with areas that are concentrated with second homes, many generational, as well as vacation homes that are visited by generational pieces of different families that have been coming here for years. They don't vote here, but they are a big part of our community fabric. And we have community pride that we have. It's good. It's us. It's Capitola. Capitola residents need to understand how districts will be formulated. You need to educate them in the process. We need for you guys to be directly involved. Directly involved, don't delegate that, and help us understand what's happening to us.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Hi. Hello. Hi, I'm Megan Morrissey. I really just have one message on this, which is please take your time and don't move too quickly. My understanding is that we can ask for an extension, we can ask for more time. We're going into, if you count these 90 days from May, we're looking at having to deal with this over the summer months. A lot of residents are busy, they're out of town. I think this is, based on what everybody else has commented on, this is incredibly important for our community. And it's incredibly important that we get as many residents of Capitola involved as possible, both to understand what's happening and to become more civically engaged. I just think this is a huge thing for us moving forward, and whatever we can do to slow it down and do it as efficiently and as effectively with getting as much community input and knowledge out there in the community is the best way to proceed. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll come back to council. Start with Ms. Westman.
I heard from our city attorney that it's going to be important for us to schedule a special meeting for April 30th. And I think that's a good idea. It's my understanding that staff has put out an RFP to hire a demographer for us so that, we can sort of hit the ground running. And I think it would be important to have an ad hoc committee on the city council members work with staff on reviewing those proposals and coming up with a selection, so we're involved in it from the beginning. I do agree with taking time with the community. I don't think we don't want to drag our feet. We want to be efficient because all of this is going to be costing us money, but we do need to have places in there where we can educate our community, give them the opportunity so they feel like they're involved in how these decisions are made and these districts are them. And I think we actually need to talk more about not maybe just having 5 districts. Other cities, such as the city of Santa Cruz, has gone to having a different number of districts and an elected mayor. So I think that's one option. May be good, may not be good, but I do think we need to look at all of those options and have a good, thorough discussion about them so we all understand what that would mean or not mean. Those are really my comments right now. I don't know at what point we want to sort of select an ad hoc committee. I think certainly the mayor should be one of those people, and perhaps Councilmember Jensen could do it. I think you're one of the more available ones. We'll see how that goes. But those are my comments.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for making me available. I completely agree. I there's not a connection back to this, but like our housing element, a lot of this, when it comes back and something comes back, a mandate or a state or something that we're more or less pushed into, once everybody started hearing about the housing element, there was a huge pushback. And then when you start to go through the process, you understand, okay, we're going to go through the process, and how can we go through the process collectively together and get through this process in a way that we have community involvement and we have buy-in from our community during that process. I appreciate your idea of the ad hoc committee. to review the RFPs from the demographer. I think it's extremely important to make sure that there is complete independence, open communication, that this is not driven by the city. A demographer would take factual data, put together some maps for feedback, and I'm quite sure there'll be a lot of education on how does that go into, we heard Councilmember Orwak talk about, residency numbers, so somebody might want to geographically draw an area, that some of these representation districts could be very small because there's highly impacted amount of residents in that area. And so it's not going to be a geographical, but if you do some research on it, some of the districts are divided up by that. I also agree with you to look at, Capitola's always had 5 council members and a mayor on a rotation. If we're going to be making changes, that's something we want to look at from a community standpoint. And it's a 4 district with a rotating mayor. Is the mayor rotated on a 2-year cycle? And we have a section every 2 years anyways, and so wouldn't be a cost impact. I don't know if that's the right thing for Capitola, but I think it's an idea for us to think outside the box and see if that's something that maybe our community wants to support, or maybe something that we don't want to support. I think with the ad hoc group, that would maybe provide some assurances to our community that council was involved in the selection of the final selection of the demographer. Was, elections are very sensitive. They're not run by the city. They're overseen and supported, and we have our county election department that oversees the fairness of elections. And so I want to make sure there's very much a cut line on the process that we're going to go through and bring everybody along through this together. And that's all my comments, and look forward to other council comments.
Great comments. Do you want to go?
Yeah, so while I dislike the fact that we were forced into this decision, I do think this will be a really interesting process for us, and I think it will result in a more diverse council that is more representative of our community and the different microcosms that we're in. And we do have 2 neighboring jurisdictions with very different styles, right? Watsonville has their district, they've been district since 1989, and there are 7 council members, and they're in a rotating basis in terms of mayorship. So everyone gets an opportunity to be mayor, versus Santa Cruz, that is you elect a mayor, and that mayor stays on for 4 years. Now, do we want to have, and I think 2 terms is max, but do we want to have potentially someone in this role for 8 years versus 2 years versus a rotating mayorship? I think those would be really interesting conversations to have in the future. But I agree with moving forward to have this special meeting next week, because it sounds like we are in a time crunch, and it wouldn't hurt, of course, to ask for that extension, because it's true that this is a big decision, big transition for Capitola, and we need all the residents involved. Those are my comments.
I just have a follow-up question, Councilman Robach. Regarding the Watsonville, I'm not aware there. Is it automatic rotation? So they have 7 districts. So 1 district, and then it's automatically the 2nd district, and then it's automatically the 3rd district. Because we're not. At large, it's the council makes that decision. So I didn't know how that worked in Watsonville. So it's automatic if you. So.
If you're in that district and that district is next up to be mayor, then you're mayor. So it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That district's mayor, the person's not, right? Because if the person's on for 4 years and they just got on, and if it's 7 council members, it'd be a 7-year term. So that district
that may not have an opportunity, right? Unless you
the
run,
district would have an opportunity once every 7 years. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I'm in favor of the meeting on the 30th. I'm in favor of the ad hoc committee. I think we should try to make this a positive thing and make this maybe a little bit better for Capitola and its residents. So we really need to have the residents come out and be part of it. So maybe we can make this into something positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I will agree to be on an ad hoc committee for this process. And I think nothing forced feels great. but I think that moving forward, we can figure out a dynamic way to support Capitola and its voters. And I don't want to beeline this process. I would hope to find some type of extension just so that we feel informed, the community feels informed. So I want to find the balance of that. However, sounds like the meeting on the 30th will probably take care of more of these detailed choices. So
Willing to make a motion.
Great.
So I'll make a motion that we have a special meeting on April 30th with the one item on the agenda to talk about the district elections, and that we have an ad hoc committee of Vice Mayor Jensen and Mayor Morgan to work with staff on the RFPs.
May I make a request for clarification before proceeding? So the agenda that will be published for this special meeting will include more than one item. So there are 2 steps to move forward. The first is that the council must adopt a resolution of intent to transition to district elections. So that would be one action. The next would be approving a contract with a demographer and a budget amendment to account for the costs for such action. So
yeah,
I just want to clarify.
I understand those will be on the agenda, but there may not be a staff report making a recommendation when that goes out on Friday, because there might not be time for the ad hoc committee to meet with the people that they want to meet with to interview for a demographer.
So this is a special meeting, so the agenda could be pushed out to next week as one option, but I'll defer to the city attorney. I think no matter what, we have to have both items listed on the agenda to take action. Otherwise, we might not be in compliance, but I will defer to the city attorney on that one.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So given the very quick turnaround, it would be my recommendation to include, or with direction from the council, to include the resolution of intent and perhaps a placeholder item for consideration of a contract. And we might have to supplement materials based on direction from the ad hoc committee that's being established tonight. And I know a lot of this is moving quickly. There's a lot of different moving parts, but it would be helpful to staff to get additional council direction on that point as well, because we do want to publish the agenda to provide more time for the public to review the materials.
Does that work for you, Madam Clerk? How
Got a second? I don't know if she.
There'll be one and a placeholder.
2 items with the placeholder in the second item for the demographer contract pending the outcome of these proposed interviews.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Great. We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach?
Aye.
Councilmember Westman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jensen?
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Bring us to 8D, our citywide website update. Exciting.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also excited. Thank you, everyone in council. Give me 1 second. I do have a brief presentation before I have a reveal for you. Okay. So, as you may recall, a citywide website update was part of your adopted budget goals for this fiscal year. More background, we're well aware that we've been up to this point using more of an outdated system. We last updated the website. I actually did that as well back in 2020 at the very beginning of the pandemic. The migration, the move to this new site was based on our host's timeline. So the exact timing of when we got to move, I didn't get to pick. I had to kind of wait on Civic Plus, but that's why we are here now today. So it all worked out. We did a lot of internal analysis. Staff really looked at all of our content. I had a team of about 8 other subject matter experts from each department looking at all of their information and figuring out how to best present it to the public. And the biggest question we asked ourselves was, what is the public calling coming in person and talking to us and asking us for first, rather than what are we trying to push out, because I think that can sometimes conflict. So we tried to have everything visible on the news site. And there was also a survey on our website. I know our police really helped push that out on their social media, and I did receive some responses from the public on how they felt the website could be improved. And I worked with our mayor. So, summary of the feedback we received. Oh, I just want to note, I don't know if you've noticed, but these pictures are gorgeous. I hired a professional photographer to take images of the city to use on the news site, because I think that can really enhance the appeal. So, I don't want to take credit. I did not take these pictures. So a big feedback we received is better formatting on our phones. That was a desire from the public. Information needs to be reorganized. The current department menus were hard to navigate. Agreed. Add general community news, which totally I'm in favor of. We do have a community news feature currently on the site, and that is going to remain in the new version. And more pictures. So hence the pictures. The most popular information that the survey takers said they were looking for, these actually didn't come as a surprise, but it was kind of affirming to see that what we think is the most popular information looked for is actually what people agree with. So city council meeting information, the 5 of you are very popular. Special events, including our Twilight concerts. The surf camera, that is the most visited webpage on our website and has been for at least 15 years, am I right? Yes, the data proves it. General city news and rules and regulations, which I'm taking to mean our municipal code, which is really easy to find as well. So I'm excited. I hope that everyone likes the new website. So goals were providing access to accurate information, easier, not duplicating our information in 3 slightly different versions of the same, but keeping everything consistent, accurate, sensibly organized, and of course, visually appealing. And this is a sneak peek because the planned go live date is this Monday. So everybody here is really lucky. They get to see it now, but it should be live and available like normal on Monday. And just a note, to stay state law compliant, we are also updating our URL. This was designed to increase and improve kind of transparency and trust in government. So only real government sites can use the .gov URL. I had to go through a vetting process through the federal government. It was really interesting. And so the new city website will be cityofcapitola.gov. Currently we're a .org. And our emails, which this may not seem exciting, but we are thrilled, the last part of our emails are now going to also be at cityofcapitola.gov. And you can imagine our current and which soon to be previous email suffixes that are on the screen. My last name is Woodmancy, okay? So cwoodmancy at ci.capitola.ca.us. You can tell I've said it on the phone a couple times. It's very long and burdensome and people don't know what you're talking about. So cityofcapitola.gov will be a huge improvement. I'm excited. I think other staff members are as well. So that's just a FYI that did go out in our newsletter to keep the public aware. Our emails will be forwarded. We shouldn't miss anything. But that is coming on Monday as well. So now the plan is I'm going to show you our new website. I feel really nervous because I like it, but hopefully you will. So as you can see, it does look similar to the format of our current site. I know the screen is small, but this is the general look. We have a beautiful slideshow featuring those images. We have a totally different layout of the information that I think makes way more sense and is based on what people are looking for already. We're highlighting, how special it is to live and visit the city and that you may want different information than if you're going to be doing business here, for example. We have our surf camera, front and center. Oh, you can even kind of see. That's awesome. Beautiful. We have recreation programming right up front. That's also a really, really popular webpage for us. I know a couple concerns and goals from the council that has come up in past fiscal years and this year is transparency. We have a whole new transparent government page that lists some really interesting links to popular topics around the city. We have something that I know will please at least one person at the dais, all of our city administrative policies in one place. We have our city council. Look at you guys. So nice. I think it's great. I don't want to just keep clicking on things. It seems a little silly, but I am here to answer any questions if anyone has any. And like I said, this should really go out to everyone on Monday morning. And we'll see, the good news is now we have this new, more flexible platform. This is a work in progress. We're going to keep updating, adding information. I am proud of the fact that we have our proposed budget right here. One click, there it is. We've got information on food trucks. We have our calendar listing up your special meeting next week. So we're trying to listen and meet the demands and the needs of the public. So that is really the goal always, but especially in these kind of more fun visual projects. So I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Any questions?
Can you get the Hooper's private camera added to that?
Is that the one? So I actually worked on that. And I don't surf, so it was a really interesting fit. But I talked to the gentleman, and part of the issue is they have a completely different business model, and it's completely pay to play. So the fact that we have the camera at all on the wharf is kind of a big deal. And I don't want to say more because it's not on the agenda.
But they collect money for it, and the city would get a lot more hits. So that camera would probably be seen more often or looked at more often than Main Beach. Just a thought.
I'm just curious.
Congratulations. It looks great. I can't wait to try it out.
Thank you.
I'm just curious how long the old email address will be online still for, or?
That's really up to us. And I'm speaking to our IT person about it tomorrow. So I'm going to ask what best practice is. But at this point, it will just be available and we'll be getting forwarding for as long as we think makes the most sense. The nice thing is with our new website, we can update all of our addresses online really quickly. So we shouldn't have to hunt and find the old one and swap it out.
Great. Looks great. Thank you, Chloe, for your work.
Questions? Great. Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you.
Any public comments on this item? You too. Seeing none, I don't think there's much to deliberate on other than thank you, Chloe. This it was a long time coming and we're going in a great direction. So yeah, we'll be clicking away later. All right. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to our last item, 9, adjournment. Thank you all for being in attendance this evening. Do remember that we have our special meeting on the 30th, so that'll come up quick. And take care of yourself and others. Thank you so much. Do we have to sign all of these? Sorry.